This book took more than 30 years to complete. It began a few days after a unit of British soldiers arrived at Spandau jail in Berlin to take over guard duties. The unit consisted entirely of National Service conscripts, boys who had grown up during World War II. They were marched to the briefing room to receive instructions from their commanding officer, who stood on a platform to address them. "Do you know whom you are guarding in this prison?" he asked. Nobody replied. Turning to the blackboard behind him, the officer picked up a piece of chalk and wrote in big white letters, Hess, Funk, Speer, Schirach, Neurath, Donitz, Raeder. Pointing to the first name, the officer inquired, "Does anyone know who this man is?" There was a silence, and then a hand shot up. "Yes?" "A black marketeer, sir?" came the naive answer. Not one among the soldiers, children of the war, had heard of the 7 men of Spandau or knew the reasons for their imprisonment. So there was more than a modicum of truth in the comment made inside the jail by Hitler's Minister of Production, Albert Speer. "Most people in the world have forgotten what we are in for." The young soldiers were ignorant of the background of the men they were about to guard. They were unaware that the 7 had been tried and found guilty for their complicity in what a distinguished German lawyer had described as a despotism which pressed for war by enslaving justice and freedom through terror, corruption, faithlessness, lies, and disregard for the most sacred human rights, which initiated war against the mightiest nations, violating international agreements, waged it with numberless and unparalleled cruelties, and by this criminal madness delivered the German people into inexpressible misery and its beautiful country into horrible devastation. 2 of the men in the prison had been chosen to carry on where Hitler left off. One, claiming a right inherited from Hitler's will, asserted that he would be entitled to place himself at the head of the German state when freed after his 10-year sentence. The other, imprisoned for the rest of his life, saw himself as a mystical spiritual leader of the German nation, destined to restore the creed of his Führer. Karl Donitz, commander of the Nazi U-boats, who had announced himself president of the Third Reich after Hitler's suicide in the Berlin bunker, and Rudolf Hess, the deputy Führer, who had parachuted into Britain in 1941 on a mission of peace. These were 2 of the 7 men held in the world's most fantastic fortress. In Berlin's Spandau prison, the 7 men, sentenced by the Nuremberg Tribunal for crimes against humanity, were surrounded by every conceivable escape-proof precaution. They had formerly been among